Hi, I'm Jennifer and this is Kate, and today we're taking a look back at all the books that we read in July 2024, which turned out to be quite a lot.
It's crazy that it is already August, but July was a fun reading month. There was lots of variety, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we read.
Our Catholic read-along book of the month from the Sophia Institute Press Book Club for July was this one, The Logic That God Exists by Robert P. Trussell,
who, as it turns out, is the CEO of Tempur-Pedic, and so yes, the mattress company.
However, he did not start out in the mattress industry. He actually was in the horse racing industry, but when that went south, he decided to turn to his strong Catholic faith and to God to help see his family through a very difficult time.
And so he shares all of the details in this book. It's very interesting to read, but the main purpose of this book is to convince non-believers that God does exist. And so he blends scientific theory, logic, philosophy, religion, all to help sway any doubters.
But if that sounds really intense, don't worry, because this is definitely a beginner level book. Really anyone could pick up this book, read it, follow his arguments quite easily, and that is one of the things that we really liked about the book.
There's also a lot of C.S. Lewis in this book. You can never go wrong with him. And there's also a chart that lists all 37 of Jesus's recorded miracles from the Gospels in chronological order, which is very impressive when you see it all laid out.
Yeah. When you see that, there's no doubt that Jesus was not just an ordinary guy. Okay, so that's all great. The author is on fire for his Catholic faith. He is very enthusiastic, which again is wonderful. However, we do like to be really honest in our reviews. And it felt like at times that maybe this book wasn't fact-checked completely thoroughly like it should have been. There were a few times when we thought, wait a minute. For instance, on page 110, the author says that until 1492, when Columbus sailed, really no one believed that the earth was round. They all thought it was flat. However, we know from our history studies that that simply is just not true.
Right. A lot of people believed that the earth was round. You think of Eratosthenes. He correctly estimated the circumference of the earth within 100 miles back in 240 BC, which is crazy impressive.
I know, ye old Greek guy with no modern calculators or anything. He knew that the earth was round. So yeah. So that's just a little thing, but there were other things, and some of them involved his theology. And so as we were reading, there were a couple times when we thought, that does not sound theologically correct. And then at the end of the book, there was one thing that he said that we're pretty darn sure was not 100% correct theologically.
So while we love the idea of this book, there were those caution flags that went up. But it is just our opinion. So if you've read this book, let us know what you think down in the comments.
So now let's look at our Catholic quick read book for July, and it was this little one, The Good Saint Anne from Tan Publishing.
And St. Anne is my saint for this year, so it's fun getting to read about her. It has all the different titles of St. Anne, the different prayers, like the Litany of St. Anne, and also her 5 joys and her 5 sorrows.
There are also a lot of really cool stories in this one about different prayers that were answered through the intercession of St. Anne, so those are fun to read. But my favorite part in the book is a private revelation that the Blessed Mother gave to someone that doesn't mention who it was in the book. But the Blessed Mother says that at the end of your rosary, you just go ahead and say one Our Father and one Hail Mary at the very end in honor of St. Anne.
The Blessed Mother said this is very pleasing to God and it's a beautiful tribute.
Because Anne is Jesus's grandma, right? So, honoring grandma, always a good thing to do. So this one is short, doesn't take a long time to read, but we feel like it's a real hidden gem from Tan Publishing. So if you ever get a chance to read it, just go ahead and pick it up. Okay, so I did do a fair amount of reading in July. I'm giving you a heads up, a warning about that. I'm going to try to get through all of the books fairly quickly. A lot of them came from the library, The first one is Living Large in Our Little House by Carrie Fivecoat Campbell. And I've always been fascinated with tiny house living, so I really enjoyed reading this one. She chronicles her journey toward tiny home living along with her husband, how they got there, the pros and cons of living in a tiny house, also a lot of practical tips on how to go about it if you're interested. She has a lot of pictures in this one, so it was fun to read and to look at all the pictures. And she includes stories from other families who also live in tiny homes, so I thought that was kind of fun also. The only thing I didn't like about the book is that it is told from a very secular world point of view. So it's nothing bad, there's no bad language, but if you're looking for more of a Christian world point of view, then this is probably not the book for you, but I still did enjoy reading it.
So my first book today is A Haunting at Hokom by Anne Glenconner. This one is a historical fiction mystery, and it was kind of just a pretty cover buy, I'll be honest, at the book warehouse sale a couple of months ago. But this one follows Lady Anne Cook. She is like 17, 18 in 1950, in those like early years after World War II. And the story opens when her grandfather is found dead at the bottom of the stairs with this valuable necklace stashed in his pocket. So everybody living and working at Hokom Hall has different ideas about how her grandfather died. Some even say it was the old ghost who supposedly haunts different wings of the house. But Anne has her own ideas, and she goes investigating, trying to figure out what happened. So we follow her in 1950, but we also have a second timeline where we follow her as a young child back during the war. And so you see how what happened then is affecting what's happening now and how it all twists together. So I wouldn't say this book is absolutely the most earth-shattering mystery I've ever read, but it was still really fun. I read it very quickly over a couple of days. And it's an interesting look into post-World War II England. I mean, Anne is a lady. She is part of society. So you see that sort of high society coming back together and reforming after the war. And that also has interesting details, like it is said multiple times in this book, how the beaches are still not accessible and still not safe to use, even several years after the war. Another really cool thing about this book is that the author, Anne Glenconner, was actually born Lady Anne Cook, and she grew up in Hokom Hall. So it's almost as if the author is writing fiction about herself as a young woman, which is something I have never seen before. I found that really interesting when I started just reading her like author bio on the back of the dust jacket. And so she sounds like she's a very interesting person. She grew up at Hokom. She was a lady in waiting to Princess Margaret. So she seems to have had a very interesting life. And I know she's written several other books, and I will definitely be checking those out.
Okay, my next book, also from the library, is All the Small Wonderful Things by Kate Foster. This was my absolute favorite book from all my July reading. It's the story of Alex, who is a middle schooler in Australia, and he's getting ready to start high school, but the problem is he has no friends. He is autistic and life is a little challenging for him. Really, the only friend he has is his little white cockapoo dog named Kevin. However, Alex does have a plan for making friends because he feels like, if he can have a lot of friends by the time he gets to high school, then he won't be bullied when he goes to high school, because he's heard rumors that, people without friends get bullied in high school. So he has this plan and he's trying to make it work out so he can have a lot of friends, and it doesn't go quite as planned. However, he does get a helping hand from his dog Kevin, and it is such a wonderful story. It is told from the first person point of view of Alex in the present tense. So you are just living Alex's life. You are right inside his head. And I found it really fascinating and helpful. It's a good look at the world of autism. I mean, I think we all know someone who is autistic, right? So hearing from Kevin about the things that he likes and doesn't like and things that bother him and why. For instance, loud noises and crowds are really hard for him. So I really appreciated that glimpse into his world. But again, mostly it is just such a great story. I'm not going to give away too many of the plot details, but this is a 5-star book, great for anyone of any age.
So my next book today is Blink and We'll Miss It by Jenny Coaches. And this one is on the opposite side of the coin from my last book. So this one follows May Griffin. She is a rising senior in high school, but she is in a very hard position in her life. Her mother struggles a lot with mental health and mental illness, and so May basically has to take care of her and keep her from hurting herself and the others around her. So one thing leads to another, and they end up back in her mother's hometown living with May's grandparents. And that brings May face to face with her mom's struggles, her family struggles, and then also the friends who she hurt before and completely cut out of her life. So there is a lot going on in this book. It is set during the summer on the coast. So it has that fun, like, summer beach vibe, but it also doesn't shy away from a lot of the really hard stuff in life and a lot of the really hard things that happen to people. So I really appreciated that about this book. It is not religious, but it is very inspiring, and I think it could really help maybe a teen who is struggling with mental health or with friendships. This book is like giving a voice to that. It doesn't shy away from these very real struggles that so many of us face, and I absolutely loved that about this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. There may or may not be a little bit of time traveling involved in this book. I don't know. You'll have to read it to find out. But I enjoyed it, and I will definitely read more books from this author.
Next, and also from the library, Jane Austen Cover to Cover, 200 Years of Classic Covers by Margaret Sullivan. So I saw this on the shelf at the library. It only took me 3 seconds to run across the library and grab it off the shelf. It is such a fun look into the world of Jane Austen book covers. So the author takes you from the original publications of her books down through the years, through all the different versions and different incarnations or interpretations of what the book should look like and why. Some of the covers are definitely very beautiful. Some of them were just a hard no for me, but I did enjoy looking at all the covers and reading about them. The author has quite a sense of humor, so there were times that I was just laughing out loud while I read this book. I think this is a great gift option for the Jane Austen fan in your life, and I can highly recommend it.
So my last book today is Catholic Joe Superhero by Stephen Thomas. So this is a chunky book. It is over 500 pages. And it follows our protagonist, Joe. He is an ex-Marine, he's this deadly fighter, and also a total family man. And he is very, very devoutly Catholic, which you will see over and over and over again in this book. So when the book opens, Joe is trying to save his brother's marriage, which is completely falling apart. And as he's doing that, he also starts to run into some of the corruption in the government, but also more specifically in the church. So of course, that really gets his attention, and he starts diving into that, seeing what he can do to help there. And this book is a total journey because of that. There is so much going on, so much action. There's a home raid, there's imprisonment, there's assassins, all kinds of crazy stuff. But this book will also make you stop and think on multiple occasions on what we believe as a church, the church's teachings, especially on family and marriage, and also about the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist and at Mass. So there's a lot going on, but there are so many beautiful Catholic moments in this book. And I did enjoy reading it. I think anybody could enjoy reading it. But the author says that his target audience is men. And I would say after reading it, the target audience is married men. I think married men would benefit the most from this book. It's very fun, it's very inspiring, but also very thought-provoking at the same time. So I think this could be a great gift for any Catholic man in your life. And if you read the book and you like it, it is the first in a series, so there will be more coming, so stay tuned.
So we mentioned in our latest Happy Little Catholic Thing video that we were definitely enjoying reading this book, Eucharistic Saints, which has 20 different saints in it who were devoted to the Eucharist. So here are some of the saints right here, and in the book there is a maybe 3 or 4 page snapshot of a moment in each saint's life. So that's a really fun and unique way to approach the lives of the saints. There are some really great stories in here. I like the story of the children at Fatima. I thought that was really well done. So I think this is a really great way to introduce your kids to the Eucharistic Saints. And it would also make a great gift. And we mentioned the end papers in the other video, but I just have to show them again because they are so beautiful. The illustrations in this book are just really great. In July, I also listened to the entire Emily of New Moon series as audiobooks on Hoopla. They are written by L.M. Montgomery, who also wrote Anne of Green Gables, and they're very much in that same kind of flavor, young girl growing up. The first book is Emily of New Moon. She is an orphan. Her father has just died, and so she goes to live at New Moon Farm with her 2 aunts and her cousin Jimmy, who is such a wonderful character. I just love cousin Jimmy. So new school, new life, new friends, very fun book. I enjoyed it so much. So I went right into the second book of the series, which is Emily Climbs. In this one, she is exploring her writing talent. She loves to write. She's facing different problems. I'd have to say that the Emily series is probably a little darker than the whole entire Anne of Green Gables series. It's a little grittier, a little more intense. In addition to being a gifted writer, Emily also has another special talent. I'm not going to give away any spoilers in case you haven't read the books, but it's very unusual and it's there and she has to grapple with it. So a little bit darker, but I still enjoyed it, loved it, thought it was really good. Then I went right into book number 3, which is Emily's Quest. And at this point, Emily is all grown up. She is still living at New Moon Farm with her aunts and good old cousin Jimmy, still love him, but her friends have all grown up and they're scattered all over the world, and so it's a little bit more depressing and dark because she suffers bouts of loneliness. I felt like maybe even the author just was kind of off her game in this book, because at one point fairly early on I realized that, oh my goodness, there's a certain storyline going on here and the author is going to spin this storyline out till the very end. And that was, that made my heart sink because I just felt like, just no. If you have ever read Emily's Quest, I would love to hear your thoughts about it down in the comment box below. So leave me a comment. I don't know, I might have to do a whole video about Emily's Quest just to kind of get it off my chest. So I don't know, I'm kind of in recovery from that, but I did enjoy the series as a whole. All right, and then last, by viewer request, so this was for you, Margaret, from our church library, I read St. Clare and Her Cat. St. Clare is my confirmation saint, and I'm a cat lover, so of course I wanted to check out this book. It's a really nice introduction to the life of St. Clare. It is a shorter picture book, so some of the illustrations are really beautiful, how she adopts a little kitten, how she becomes a follower of St. Francis and then a nun. So that's all really good. The only thing that I did not like about the book is that on some of the pages, the black text blends into the scenery of the book. So sometimes when I was reading the book, I would have to say, okay, now where is the text? You know, I can't find it. Like right up here, there's some text hidden on a dark green background. So I don't really understand why the publisher did that. I'm just being completely honest here because it's a cute book, but that kind of did give me a little pause. So even though I love St. Clair, I think there are other books by the author, Desi Jackson, that I maybe have enjoyed better.
All right, so that was a trip through July's book mountain.
It was so much fun and so relaxing just to have free time in July to sit down and read a good book.
So as always, let us know down in the comments what you read in July and what you plan to read in August.
So we hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.